The House is currently debating the report for approval. Let's go live to the House now. Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu is taking his turn at the debate.
People know what they want to do. Mr. Speaker, clearly what the EC is doing finds expression in the law, and the Subsidiary Legislation Committee has not succeeded in telling this House that they've gone outside their remit, and because of that, Mr. Speaker, I want that to resist this attempt to force this House to annul the instrument that the Electoral Commission has brought to this House. Mr. Speaker, that conclusion by some minority members has no legs to stand on, and we must dismiss it, and accordingly the Speaker allow the instrument to indeed begin operationalization by the close of this day. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
So you saw there, excerpts of the ongoing debate on the CI, on the report of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, which has just been passed by a majority. Let's go live on the line, and correspondent Joseph Opoku-Kapo joins us with details on the debate. Joseph, it was expected that the House would be divided on this, but what are some of the arguments both sides have been advancing?
For example, the minority leader, Harry Idrisu, says allowing the CI to mature will disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians, which he thinks will be a threat to the nation's democracy. And he went on to make the point that they, the minority, will be voting against it when eventually the House begins to vote. In fact, that's expected any moment from now. Now that the debate has been concluded, instead of the regular voice vote, which eventually leads to an approval of any item that's brought to the floor, Harry Idrisu indicated that they, the minority MPs, will request for the casting of votes, which is expected to then subsequently take some time. As you can hear in the background, the bell is being rung for a lot more MPs to show up, because what is clear is that the minority is taking this to the very extreme as they would want it. And most likely a vote by individual MPs is expected on the floor any moment from now. The minority MPs say that the CI actually is a flout of a previous directive by the Supreme Court, which they say indicated that although the NHIA cannot be used as a source document to get into the register, the Supreme Court eventually gave the green light that the driver's license and other cards can be used. And so that is something that they will continue to object to. They also think that this particular CI will actually will not allow for a situation where Ghanaians will be safe, because COVID-19 is around the corner, and so Ghanaians shouldn't be stepping out to register to get into a new voters register around this time. Those are some of the arguments that they've been advancing. A while ago, the vote was taken, and even after the voice vote, the minority are asking for a head count in terms of the vote before the eventual approval.
And Gakpo, even before the House approved the report on the CI, some of the minority MPs were calling for the withdrawal of the CI. What has been the reaction of the Speaker and the majority side?
for the Speaker, he's been asking that they stick to the debate on whether the CI should be approved or otherwise, because that's the issue that's currently before the House, and urging them to avoid any extraneous debates as far as the issues having to do with the CI are concerned. For those on the majority side, Chairman Sabuntu was making an argument that if anyone is saying because of COVID-19, a new register shouldn't be compiled, then that also makes a case to say when it comes to voting in December 2020, that should not be happening. And he was daring the minority to move a motion to allow for the president's mandate to be extended, even in the light of issues having to do with COVID-19. Patrick Yabuama, who is an NPP MP, makes the argument that the register as it exists now is cancerous, and that you don't cure cancer with a paracetamol. You deal with the very heart of the matter, which is why a brand new register is actually needed. And Obi Amwa, who is also an NPP MP, says that the CI, this is something that the minority had supported in the past, so he doesn't understand why they are changing their positions now. Those have been some of the arguments, even as the House debated the approval of this particular report by the Subsidiary Legislation Committee.
All right, thank you very much. That's parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gappo with details from the ongoings in Parliament right now. And the news is that Parliament has approved the report of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee on their report. They've approved the report on the CI, which gives this EC the go-ahead to compile the new voters register. Well, legal practitioner Martin Pebu joins us via phone for some perspective on this. Many thanks for your time. What's the legal ramification to what just happened in Parliament?
Well, Alaba, the starting rule is that the Supreme Court itself usually acknowledges that Parliament is master of its own procedure, okay? And so usually the court doesn't go too much into how Parliament works. But the court usually look at the end product. And so the end product is the CI. If the CI matures and becomes law, it still would not be implemented because currently there's a case in the Supreme Court in which the opposition NDC is challenging the constitutionality of the EC Act of compiling a new voters register. And as part of the case, this particular CI is very pivotal to that case in court. So,
indeed, I was going to ask you about that what bearing does this have on the case in court?
Yeah, this is actually the fulcrum. This is the link thing around which the case in court revolves.
Right.
So because of that, and the EC in the past has shown their due respect to the Supreme Court. If a matter is pending in the court, they usually don't run ahead of themselves. So going by precedent, one would expect that they are not going to start doing anything ahead of the Supreme Court decision. So they would wait for the Supreme Court to finally pronounce on the constitutionality or otherwise of the new voters register they are going to compile. And as part of the compilation, they will need this law to be able to determine who can come in and register or not.
Right, Mr. We'll just stay on the line for us for a few minutes and just give our viewers some insight into this matter which has ended up at the Supreme Court. Well, the existing voter register, which was compiled in 2012 and revised since by limited registration exercise, has been held by the court as not being reasonably credible. This is according to the EC. By implication, the cards issued pursuant to it are also not reasonably credible. In respect of the cards issued pursuant to CI 12, the EC has found that those voter identification cards were issued without any form of identification at all. This displaces the credibility of the voter's ID. The EC also found a fundamental omission in its training manual and the manner in which the voter registration exercise was carried out in 2012, partly in breach of its own binding CI 72 and also in breach of Article 42 of the Constitution. The Commission wants a break from the past to remedy all the carried on ineligibilities, excesses and breaches of Article 42 as the existing cards have become fruits of a poison tree. It will be in continuous breach of Article 42 of the Constitution to totally disregard this Honourable Court's own judgment to continue using the existing cards, and is still in contravention of Section 8(1) of Act 750 as amended for the EC to accept the existing voter identification cards as a means of proving citizenship for the compilation of the new register. So, Mr. Kpebu, that's the argument being advanced by the Electoral Commission to the Apex Court. A quick reaction to the EC's justifications there.
Well, you know, because it's in court, we can't go into the merits.
Right.
So I can't say that, oh, this is very good and convincing, or otherwise. I'm not allowed to say that. I can only make comments based on past precedents and the rest. So the comment number one is that, you know, in the Ramadan case, the Supreme Court itself stated that the voter's card is usually primary facie evidence of citizenship. And because we've used it in the past, it's kind of gained some acceptance, to say the least. So it's quite a very difficult task, very daunting to say today that the old voters register cannot be. It's quite a challenge. But as I said, I'm not able to comment directly on the EC's defense. I can only speak on the precedent, because in the Ramadan case, those are some of the arguments that came up. But the Supreme Court looked at it and said, look, to acquire a voter's ID is no joke. And to the extent that we use same over the period, it's primary facie evidence. You see? And then, so this, if I may bring in social commentary a bit, remember President Ford's comment too. So you see that when something is been accepted and used over time, and all of a sudden you want to throw it out of the window, it's quite a challenge. It's really, really quite a challenge. And don't forget, especially in the midst of this COVID-19, where a lot of us are really apprehensive about going to re-register, it's even making it more difficult, because I can't foresee how I'm going to go out there and re-register for this election. There's no way. No. And there are a lot of people who share this sentiment.
Very well. I'm very grateful for your time. That's lawyer Martin Kpebu there with his thoughts on proceedings in Parliament, as well as the EC's argument that it advanced in court, at the Supreme Court to be specific. Meanwhile, a civil society group, ASEPA, has petitioned the President Akufo-Addo, for the removal of EC boss Jean Mensah for violating Article 286 of the Asset Declaration Law. Executive Director of the group, Mensah Thompson, joins us via Zoom. Thanks for your time. Now, one would argue that this is only a means to get back at the EC boss, because she failed to heed to, concerns expressed by many to halt the compilation of the register. All right, so Mensah Thompson is on the line with me via Zoom. I'm sure there are some technical hitches. We'll get to him right away. But as we indicated, ASEPA, which is a civil society group, has petitioned the President to remove EC boss Jean Mensah because, as they indicate, she did not... She violated Article 286 of the Asset Declaration Law. And in their petition, what they say is that on December 12, 2019, the undersigned, that is Mensah Thompson, who is Executive Director of ASEPA, filed a complaint with the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, against the respondent for failing to comply with the provisions of Article 286. It says that the findings of SHRAJ was that after their preliminary investigations, it became a matter of fact that indeed, as at the time the petitioner filed a complaint with SHRAJ, the respondent had indeed not complied with Article 286. It is the contention of the petitioner that 18 months after the assumption of office, the respondent failed to comply with the constitutional provisions of Article 286 and only rushed to do same after it was brought to her knowledge that a petition has been brought against her. It continues and says that the undersigned petitioner is invoking the provisions of Article 146 to begin impeachment proceedings against the respondent. And the petitioner, Mensa Thompson, who is Executive Director of ASEPA, joins us on the line again. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Thompson. As I was saying, one would argue that this is only a means to get back at the EC boss because she failed to heed to concerns expressed by many to halt the compilation of the register.
No, of course not. First of all, a very good afternoon to your cherished viewers. Of course not. This is not to get at the EC chairperson. This is procedural. I mean, the EC chairperson is a lawyer, and she's supposed to know that per the law, as Article 71 office holder, she's supposed to declare her assets and liabilities with the Auditor General within 3 months before the assumption of office. And that is why we did not just allege, we took a step further and went to Shraj for Shraj to investigate the matter. Today, Shraj has come with their report and they are saying that, yes, indeed, our allegations were right. As at the time, on the 12th of December, when we filed our petition with Shraj, the EC chairperson was in violation of Article 286 by 18 months. Clearly, that is a breach of the Constitution. And so once there is a breach of the Constitution by an Article 71 office holder or the commissioner of the Electoral Commission who is also, equal to a superior court judge, the law says that Article 146 must be invoked immediately to commence impeachment proceedings against her. And that is exactly what we've done. Yes.
In your petition, you say that the respondent failed to comply with the constitutional provisions of Article 286 and only rushed to do same after it was brought to her knowledge that a petition has been brought against her, which goes to show that she has actually, declared her assets. So doesn't that make nonsense of this petition you filed to the president?
Of course not. Again, you must read Article 286 again. Article 286 puts timelines on asset declaration. It doesn't say that you should wait and sit down till somebody files a petition before you rush to go and declare. No, Article 286 says 3 months before the assumption of office, and it must be done within every 4-year tenure. Every 4 years tenure. 3 months before assumption of office, and it must be done every 4-year tenure. I'm sure there's a reason why the framers of the Constitution said you must declare before you assume office or immediately after you assume office. And that is because this is asset declaration. Before you assume office, we must know what your assets and liabilities are so that in future when you are leaving office, we can hold you to strict account on how much you've served and whether you served for the people or you served for yourself and whether you've acquired properties and assets illegally in the course of your duty. And this asset declaration issue break into sharp focus the issue about the compilation of a new voters register, where over $18 million of Ghanaian taxpayers' money is going to be wasted on an expenditure. And you could see, and we know, if you look at the budget the Electoral Commission presented, a huge chunk of these monies are going to go into the pockets of.
All right, so that is Mensa Thompson. He's Executive Director of ASEPA, and ASEPA has petitioned the President to remove EC boss Jean Mensa for violating Article 286 of the Constitution, which focuses on asset declaration. Now let's talk about the NPP. 65 aspirants of that party will have no competition in the party's upcoming parliamentary primaries scheduled for June 20th this year. That's just next week. Well, here are some of the MPs who are going unopposed. Communications Minister Esla Ekufu, she's MP for Ablekuma West. Also, Education Minister Matthew Opoku Prempeh. Also, Railways Minister Joe Gatti, he's MP for Esikado Ketan. As I indicated, Education Minister Matthew Opoku Prempeh will be going unopposed. He's MP for Minshia South. Also, Deputy Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Edichum, MP for Bosomtwe, will be running unopposed. Works and Housing Minister Samuel Atachia, who is MP for Ebuakwa South, will be going unopposed. Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul is also going unopposed. He's MP for Bimbela. Minister of State at the Interior Ministry, Brian Achampong, who is MP for Abetifi, will also go unopposed. The same goes for Isaac Isiama, who is MP for Echuma Mpunia and Minister for Sports. Kojopon Nkrumah, who is Information Minister, will also be going unopposed. He's MP for Ofuase Ayerebe, and Minister for Regional Reorganization, Dan Boche, who is MP for Okre, will also be going unopposed. Now, a disqualified aspirant for the Subin constituency, Frank Dodu, suspects foul play in his omission from the list of qualified aspirants for the Subin constituency. This would have been the second time for him to contest in the primaries should he have been passed by the National Executive Committee. While speaking on Love in the Morning on Love FM, he said efforts are being taken to ensure reinstatement.
That right thing needs to be done, and no one needs to be favored. He knows that there are 3 contestants, and he himself attests to that fact. So how come the list come out there, then it's Frank Dodu's name is not there? So do I believe what is going on? One feels if Frank contests, it will be a disgrace, and the fear of Frank is what? Let the grassroots speak. Let the party people speak on the ground. That is what we deem fit. That is what we stand for as a party. Democracy and the rule of law is what I call for. We shouldn't have favorites and think that we are doing things to favor anybody. Please.
Frank, are you saying that they are favoring Eugene?
We will cross it and exit, and I speak that way, and evidence of all will come out. I've been quiet in the party. I have followed party procedure. I have respected the rules and regulations of the party. I don't see it at this moment. One will stand, and someone who has served for close to 25 years in the party as a grassroots man, spending all my youthful times in this party, need to be treated as such. Let the right and prevail.
Also watching election brief. Evans Nimako is the Director of Election for the NPP. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Nimako, how is the party handling the grievances over the disqualification of some of its aspirants?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Internal arrangements. After the National Executive Committee on the vetting and activities report, that becomes final. However, agreements have the opportunity to write to the General Secretary, and that will also be considered by the Conflict Resolution Committee that is chaired by our Honorable Chief of Staff, Ifrema Opari, and is assisted by His Excellency Dr. Jim Heyman, Dr. Dokufo, and other senior party members. Our party constitution, if you look at the Article 3 about the duties of members, it stated that every member must publicly abide by the decisions of the party. I can understand the decision made, some people by all means not be happy. However, that is the decision of the party. So at this stage, it is for all well-meaning party members to come along and ensure that we go through this selection process of elections at the electoral area level successfully, put together the complete whole of our candidates to be submitted to EC, so that the party's objective of winning the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections will be realized. In fact, the objective of the campaign manager is to ensure that His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo win presidential votes handsomely, and also have parliamentary numbers, commanding numbers of more than 2/3 majority. So at this stage that the party leadership, National Executive Committee, has come out on the report of vetting and appeals committee, is supposed to be the end of the processes of
All right, many thanks for your time. That's Evans Nemako. He is Director of Elections for the governing NPP. And before we go, members of the academia have waded into the controversy over the EC's decision to compile a new voters register. An open letter to the Electoral Commission has been penned by at least 84 lecturers from across the country in different universities. And among others, what they're saying is that they want the EC to give credible evidence about why they need to compile a new voters register. They're saying that although a new register cannot be planned right now given the proximity to the elections, they want the commission to provide evidence of the specific challenges it seeks to address with the register, and they are happy to participate in constructive deliberations to assist the EC with alternative policy options that will enhance the country's electoral credibility. And on that note, we end Election Brief for today. I'm Marba Kumsin. Join us same time tomorrow. Good afternoon.